Hello, my name's Carl, and this is Please Read Your Book. Today I'm going to talk about a really touching, sad, and really beautiful novel that I've recently read called The Motel Life by Willy Vlautin. All right, so like I said at the beginning there, this is about The Motel Life by Willy Vlautin. This is Willy Vlautin's debut novel. It came out in 2006. He's got a few other novels out since then. It's the first of his that I've read. I was drawn to this book because I recognized the name Willy Vlautin. He's one of the members of Richmond Fontaine, which is a sort of alt-country roots rock band. And he's been in a few other bands, and he's done some solo work as well too. He's quite a good songwriter. It's not normally a type of music that I'm really into, but for the genre, it's really, really good. And I know that he was a big member, a big part of that genre when it came out. So I had to Google it to see, like, is this the same guy? And in fact, it is the same guy. So not only is he a talented singer-songwriter and musician, he's also a really talented novelist. So this, yeah, I guess I'll just go through the story first and then talk about like why I enjoyed it so much, why I thought it was so touching. This is a story of two brothers, Frank and Jerry Lee Flanagan. They live in Reno, Nevada, and it starts off in the winter time. They're kind of down and out, kind of loserish type guys. You know, they work in these odd jobs. They clearly don't have very much money because they live in motels and the types of work that they do. And, you know, they drink a lot, and they're just basically just seem like kind of like losers, you know. What happens is that one night Jerry Lee is driving and he hits and kills a young boy. What makes this so good, this kind of leads into the writing, and what makes the writing so good is that we learn about this accident over about 5 pages of dialogue, and the way that that's written is so realistic, not just in the literal words that the characters say, which Vlautin is really good at getting that kind of diction, that sort of very American way of talking, particularly in the West, and particularly of kind of like working class, we can call it working class, but people who just aren't very well educated, and, you know, just kind of the way that they speak. He's really good at getting that. But what was really good about it is that when you confess something to someone that you really care about and whose opinion you really value, it can be really difficult to just say it straight. You often go through 4 or 5 different iterations of what happened. So if you've ever had to do that yourself, or if you've ever had someone do that with you, you know what I'm talking about, where it takes a while to really get out what happened. And he does that so well in this book when Jerry Lee is trying to tell Frank what has happened. It goes through about 4 or 5 different iterations or variations, and as readers, we can figure out, like, you know, holy crap, we kind of figure out what's going on, but it takes Frank a while to figure out what's going on, partially because of their relationship. They're obviously very close. They're brothers. They love each other. Also, they both drink very heavily, and Frank's mind is often very clouded by alcohol. So, even though it was an accident, and, you know, Jerry Lee says it was the boy's fault, the boy ran in front of him. Clearly, Jerry Lee killed the boy and is guilty of manslaughter. You know, Jerry Lee is very much worried about what the police are. You know, the police are going to catch him. You know, and throughout the whole book, he is just bearing this guilt, and he's constantly recounting what happened. And he's constantly, kind of throughout the book, we kind of learn more and more about what happened, about that night, about what's on Jerry Lee's mind, and all this stuff. But throughout the whole book, he is just so racked with guilt, as he should be, you know, as he should be. It turns out that the police kind of don't seem to be interested in the case initially. So they kind of make a run for it. Jerry Lee convinces Frank that they should leave Reno. They don't really have much money. They're very poor, but they decide to just go, kind of make a break for it. They don't get very far. And as that happens, we learn more and more about their life. They have this very tragic life. These guys, nothing has gone right in their life. You know, their mother dies when they're in high school. There's not much that's left to them. Their father left the family when they were very young. I think he was, there's something about he was an ex-con, and then he continued to, even after he got out, he continued to break the law and was always in trouble with the police and is just never around. Their grandfather basically walks away from them when their mother dies. So they've basically been on their own for a large part of their life. And they've just had no opportunities. They've had no education. And at the, I said at the beginning, they're losers, but you learn quickly that these are two guys that just never really got a break. They never had anyone to push them in the way that young people need to be pushed. And as a result, they're just kind of stuck in this rut of their life, of living in these motels, of working these dead-end jobs, of never having much money, and all they do is drink, basically. I'm not going to give away all the plot details. They do a couple things to try to cover their tracks with the accident that don't necessarily work out. Jerry Lee continues to be just racked and overcome with guilt. He tries to take his own life and it doesn't work. He ends up shooting himself in the leg, and it's the same leg that he lost below the knee when he was younger. And we get the story of how that happened. And that is an incredible tragedy. That story within the story, I thought was so powerful, and it's written so well. And when I read that story, there's lots of flashbacks in the story, but that is almost like a standalone story inside the story. And when I read that, immediately I thought of Raymond Carver, and in the best possible way. And also a writer like Alice Munro, where there's something that's happened, and that sparks, that's kind of an inciting, we think is the inciting event in the narrative that sets the story forward. And then as the story progresses, we learn what really happened. Even though the two events seem unrelated, the thing in the past actually led the characters to where they are now. Alice Munro is great at doing that. Raymond Carver is great at doing that. And Willy Vlautin is also fantastic at doing that. And when I say it reminded me of Carver, I mean that in the best possible way. And also Alice Munro. These are two writers that I kept thinking of when I read this. Another thing that strikes me too is that there's a lot of just kind of randomness, seeming randomness in their life. And there's a lot of just like random bad choices, and that's something that is really prevalent in Raymond Carver's stories. It's just random bad choices, which have an incredible impact on characters' lives. And I think that that's something that, maybe we can relate to personally, or we always know of people, you always hear stories of people that, they've done something and it just ever since then, there was just no coming back from it. And that's what these guys' lives are like, that there's just like, this thing has happened and there's just really no coming back from it. I don't know how else to articulate that. It's just like the worst bad luck, like a lifetime of bad luck. Another thing that happens too is that Frank is constantly reminiscing about his girlfriend, Anna. And we learn why they really broke up. And that's a thing that happens again too, where like there's an earlier story where we kind of think we know why they broke up. And then later there's a recount from Frank, and we learn the real reason we broke up. We learn the real reason that Anna is no longer around. And that is something that is just, almost like horrifying. It's really tragic what she's had to deal with her family and with her mother, and the things that her mother made her do. Really like tragic. It's really powerfully written though too, and it's written very deftly. You can tell that Vlautin although these are kind of loser characters, Vlautin seems to love his characters at the same time, if that makes any sense. You know, he makes them, we feel a lot for them. There's a lot of heart in the characters and the way that they're written. I'm not going to give away too much more of the narrative because I don't want to give away the ending. It's very tragic. Very, very tragic. This story, really powerful. Another thing that's powerful too here too I wanted to talk about is Vlautin's use of setting. It's set in Reno, Nevada in the winter. If you're not familiar, that part of Nevada in winter will get snow, and it will be a snowy and cold part of Nevada. We often don't think of Nevada as being cold because we always think of like Las Vegas and it's hot and it's desert. But this part of Nevada does get winter, and the use of weather and the environment and the landscape and the settings is really powerful and really impacts the story. I read this when I had just come back to China, back here again for work at the beginning of August, and I was really touched and really moved by Vlautin's descriptions of the landscapes. And I like the way that he does it in that he doesn't just like paint the picture for you. It's all part of the scene and it's integrated right into the story, and it's an essential part of the narrative, which is something that I really like. And if you like that kind of writing, I think you'll really like this. And like I said, I found it very, almost kind of nostalgic, as I had just left America again, back here. And also too, there's like, along with that, there's a lot of these themes of isolation, and that really touched me. Oftentimes living here in China, you do feel as a foreigner, you are isolated. You do feel very isolated. And so that's something that I could definitely identify with. So yeah, this is a great book. This is Motel Life by Willy Vlautin. Definitely a story of brotherhood, of brothers that love each other, brothers that care about each other, but also tragedy. And I think a kind of American tragedy of working class people who really just seemingly have just bad luck and just never quite catch a break, and also kind of just never make the right choices. So there you go. Definitely worth checking out. Willy Vlautin, The Motel Life. My name's Carl. This has been Please Read Your Book.